Hello, and welcome to Gospel Gleanings for this Sunday, March the 15th, 2026. My brothers and sisters, on this fourth Sunday of Lent, we hear from the Gospel of John, chapter 9, verses 1 through 41. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and smeared the clay on his eyes and said to him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg? Some said it is, but others said, No, he just looks like him. He said, I am. So they said to him, How were your eyes opened? He replied, The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, Go to Siloam and wash. So I went there and washed and was able to see. And they said to him, Where is he? He said, I don't know. They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on the Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, He put clay on my eyes and I washed, and now I can see. So some of the Pharisees said, This man is not from God because he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, How can a sinful man do such signs? There was a division among them. So they said to the blind man again, What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes? He said, He is a prophet. Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who gained his sight. They asked him, Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see? His parents answered and said, We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age. He can speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as a Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, He is of age. Question him. So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. He replied, If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind, and now I see. So they said to him, What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? They ridiculed him and said, You are that man's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from. The man answered and said to them, This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything. They answered and said to him, You were born totally in sin, and you are trying to teach us? Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, Do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered and said, Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, You have seen him, the one speaking with you is he. He said, I do believe, Lord, and he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind. Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, Surely we are not also blind, are we? Jesus said to them, If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, We see, so your sin remains. My brothers and sisters, there is a true story of a medical missionary who spent many years serving the people of India. In addition to being a missionary, he was also a trained and certified physician. While working in one particular region, he encountered a heartbreaking condition that affected many of the local people. Because of environmental factors, individuals would slowly go blind. They were born with normal eyesight, but over time their sight would eventually deteriorate until eventually they could no longer see at all. Over the years, this missionary doctor worked tirelessly and eventually developed a treatment, a cure that could stop the progression of this blindness and restore sight. Word spread quickly throughout the region. People came from far and wide to seek out this doctor so they could receive the treatment and preserve their vision. After receiving the cure, the people were deeply grateful to him. Yet there was something interesting about the language spoken in that region. There was no direct word that translated into English as thank you. Instead, the people used a phrase that best would be translated as this: I will tell of your name. So everywhere they went, they spoke about the doctor who had cured them. Their gratitude was expressed by sharing his name with others. My friends, that is exactly what we see unfolding in our gospel this weekend. A man who had been blind from birth encounters Jesus. Christ works a miracle in his life and restores his sight. And what does that man do afterward? He tells others. He tells his family. He tells his neighbors. He even tells the Pharisees. In other words, he tells of the Lord's name. But there's a problem. Instead of rejoicing with him, many of the Pharisees respond with suspicion and hostility. Rather than praising God for the miracle, they begin to murmur, complain, and question the man's credibility. Some even imply that he is lying or that he must be a sinner. Most of all, they refuse to acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God. At the end of the passage, Jesus asks the healed man a powerful question: do you believe in the Son of Man? And the man makes a beautiful profession of faith: I do believe. Meanwhile, the Pharisees respond defensively. They ask Jesus, surely we are not blind, are we? And the tragic answer is yes. They are blind, not physically, but spiritually. You see, my brothers and sisters, the deeper meaning of this gospel is not really about physical blindness. Yes, Jesus performs a physical miracle. The man receives his sight. But the deeper lesson is about spiritual blindness. The Pharisees could see perfectly well with their eyes. Perhaps they even had perfect vision, yet their hearts were blind. Spiritual blindness does not come from darkness outside of us, it comes from darkness within us. And when that darkness is present, we begin to see the world not as God sees it, but as we want to see it. We begin to judge according to appearances, according to our own assumptions, or according to what the world tells us is true. We see this idea expressed in our first reading this weekend as well. The prophet Samuel is sent to anoint the next king of Israel. Jesse presents 7 of his sons before him. Samuel sees the first one, strong, impressive, perhaps tall and powerful, and Samuel immediately thinks, surely this must be the one. But the Lord corrects him and says, do not judge from his appearance or from his lofty stature. For man sees the appearance, but the Lord looks into the heart. God sees differently than we do. And the Lord constantly calls us to wake up spiritually, to learn to see as He sees. Today, I'd like to highlight 2 ways that spiritual blindness appears in the gospel. First, the Pharisees are spiritually blind because they are more concerned with the letter of the law than the spirit of the law. Jesus heals the man on the Sabbath, and that becomes their main complaint. According to their interpretation of the law, work was forbidden on the Sabbath. The Pharisees have created countless regulations surrounding this commandment. For example, some traditions taught that if you broke a bone on the Sabbath, you were not allowed to seek medical treatment until the Sabbath ended. Even pouring cold water on an injured ankle could be considered work. Some even taught that a woman should not look in the mirror on a Sabbath, because if she saw a gray hair, she might be tempted to pluck it, and that would be considered work. But Jesus reminds us that the law was never meant to become a burden. He says clearly, I have come not to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. And the fulfillment of the law is love. The great commandments are simple. Love God above all things, and love your neighbor as yourself. The law was always meant to lead us toward charity. But for the Pharisees, the law had become a burden instead of a path to love. And sometimes people look at the church today and only see the burden and not the blessing. But as the people of God, everything we do must ultimately lead to love, love of God and love of neighbor. We are called to help one another carry our crosses and work together toward holiness. The second form of spiritual blindness we see in the Pharisees is this: they use religion to divide people instead of to unite them. The very word religion comes from a Latin root meaning to bind together. Faith is meant to bring people together. But the Pharisees often used religious rules to separate themselves from others. They avoided contact with Gentiles and performed ritual washings if they believed they had become spiritually unclean. Instead of building bridges, they built walls. But our faith should do the opposite. Our faith should bind us together. That is why I prefer the word family rather than community when speaking about the church. In our modern world, the word community can sometimes imply exclusion. You belong to this community, but someone else does not. But family is different. In a family, you have what you have. the good, the bad, and everything in between. You don't expel someone from the family. You work with one another, you love one another, and you grow together. And that is what the church is meant to be, my brothers and sisters. Not a museum of perfect saints, but a family of sinners journeying toward holiness. As we continue our Lenten journey, the gospel invites each of us to ask an honest question. Are we spiritually blind? Is there something in our lives that prevents us from seeing others, ourselves, or the world the way Jesus sees them? You know the hymn, Amazing Grace? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Some modern versions remove the word wretch, but there is something important about keeping it. It reminds us that every one of us falls short. As St. Paul says, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. None of us has fully arrived yet. We are still on the journey. The question for us today is this: if we were once blind, do we truly see now? Or is there still some blindness remaining in our hearts? If there is, may God grant us the grace to see clearly. May He give us eyes that see and ears that hear, so we remain focused on Him, His people, and on His kingdom. And when Jesus asks us the same question He asked the blind man, do you believe in the Son of Man? May our response be the same. Yes, Lord, I do believe. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.